Good early afternoon. Well, I took my meter off of the board and made a little stand. I did not do it on camera. Yeah, I took the meter off the board and I had to screw on. This is the other half of that mending plate. The first half was used on Uncle Dorkel's motor, arm motor. So I'm making a stand like this so I don't have to keep propping it up to read it. And I got 2 screws in it, and then I bent it at a 45, and then I took and put the screws in, and then I pressed it down to get it on an angle. And I want to put the battery up under here. And the wires are long enough to do that. So, of course, I'm not going to show you putting it back on, you know, to pretty well see how I did it. So that the battery will be in here, and then all I got to do is just unclip it. I was going to put a switch on it and turn it off, but when the meter's back on here again, I'll be able to read this a lot better. Originally I was going to just leave it on the block and just hang it up, but this would be much better. And then I got a little place to put the 9-volt battery back here, rather than to have the battery in here, which would have to be velcroed in, and then you stick the velcro on the battery. When the battery's no good, you may or may not be able to use the velcro pad again. The self-adhesive might not stick on the next battery. So I think what I'll do is just probably use some duct tape or something and fold it over on itself and make a double-faced tape like that and just stick it in there, and then I just pop the connector off. So I just wanted to show you that. And this is heavy enough metal that, you know, this is good and strong. And in case you want to know how I made this, I just bent it at a 90 degree in the vise, and then drilled 2 holes to put these screws through. And one of them I had to grind off because it was too long. It took me an hour to go through my screws to get the right size. They were either too short or way too long. And if you use them too short, when you try to bend this down, the screws will pull out. And if that happens, you can see this, you're not going to get a screwdriver in there. So you have to have this at a 90 degree angle once you bend it in the vise, and have these screws socked down. Now, because I waste so much time, that's why I just go to the hardware store and get what I need. Because I've got all these drawers, I've got 8 of them, 4 in each cabinet, and I can never find the right length screw that I need for this. But I did. One was a little longer, and so I ground it off with my bench grinder, which I had since the very early 1970s. So that's the story there. Let me get this back on here, mounted, and back into the shop. And I'll work with the battery later on. You don't need to see how I'm going to do that. All I'm going to do is just take some duct tape, stick it on one side of the battery, fold it over so the sticky sides on both sides, and stick it to the metal here, and that's the base of it. Okay, so that makes it a lot easier than trying to read it flat out like this, and I always have to prop it up. So now the 9-volt battery, like I say, with just the wires are long enough, they can just lay back here with the connector at this end, so I can pop it off. So I really don't need to put a switch there, and have the battery secured with duct tape. And then I can remove the battery when I have to replace it. So that's what we're going to do here, and everything will be self-contained. So that's it. That goes back in the shop, and I got to put the grinder back in the big shed. I don't have any bench space to mount the grinder. Certainly don't have bench space in the big shed. I did have, but where the vise is now, I had another spot on that bench that I made many years ago, but now it's all loaded with junk. Okay, enough of this. I'm going to put this back in the shop, and then I may get Uncle Dorkel out here and do some work. It looks to me like we have an okay day today. Okay, several hours later, we got this all done in a matter of just a few minutes. I used double-face tape. I found a roll of double-face tape, so that's how I mounted it that way. So this is all set. We can't do nothing with Dorkel. I've spent well over an hour trying to find little nuts and bolts that I need. I either find the nut bolts or I find the nuts, but the nuts won't fit them. So stop wasting time. We'll just go to my hardware store tomorrow and I'll pick up a couple of small carriage bolts because I want to mount that arm motor in a better way. The top part is not supported very good, so that's what we're going to do there. I took apart this Screaming Mimi here, and I threw the rest of it in the recycle. The mechanism I had in there totally jammed up. I guess it made the motor scream. And I saved the motor. I probably can't use it the way it is, but you never know, I might be able to use it for something. I haven't tried it out to see if it still screams or not. But anyways, I took all the rest of the hardware off of it. And that's it. So I was going to try to get a little work done on Uncle Dorkel today, but we got to go tomorrow when I'm out in the morning and get a couple of 1/4 carriage bolts with some nuts. Actually, I have some extra nuts, but I'll buy them anyways. I need a couple of them to redo the mounting for the arm motor. I want to make it a little better than what it is. So anyways, not much of a video, but for those of you who are interested in making something like this, this is a mending plate. You can get it Home Depot, and you just cut it down with a heavy tin snips like I did. Like I say, I cut this in half from the sheet that I had, the piece that I had, and half of it's on the arm motor assembly, and this half gets used here. So this seems to work just fine. And right now I got the battery connected, but I can pop it off. I was going to put a switch on it, but there isn't really any room to mount the switch, and I'm certainly not going to go cutting into the board here and putting a switch in there. I will screw it up, probably drilling right through a trace or something, so I won't do that. Okay, not a very exciting video, but I did a little work outside today, so I think we'll end it. I experimented with the crowbar circuit Jim Asbell gave me, and it seems to work quite well. Of course, you probably won't be able to see this very good. I'm using the Kodak ZE1, but there's a 15-volt Zener diode, 8-amp fuse, a 22-ohm resistor, and a 10,000-ohm resistor, and an SCR, which I have in the shop here. And I made the test on my low voltage power supply set on very low current, so I did not need the fuse, just to check the circuit out to see how it works. And we may have to change the SCR. It clamps at about 17.5 volts. So even though the Zener is 15 volts. So I guess the gate is not that sensitive from what I was told. And we'll probably have to put a different Zener in there. I have a couple of Zeners, and another one that's an oddball number clamps at 18 volts. Like this one here, GE C35E, like an Edward. Don't seem to be any information on that, but when I put this one in the circuit, it clamps at 18 volts. So the first one I have, which is over here, clamps at 17.5 volts. So this is probably what we'll use, or unless I can get one that probably would clamp sooner before it reaches that high. Actually, the circuit is supposed to clamp just a little above 16 volts. So anyways, I'm not building that right now. I just kind of like breadboard it. My breadboarding is with clip leads. I find that to be a lot easier. Although it can get confusing with clip leads, but I've done it all my life. What I plan to do is to get, if I can find a Bud mini box, probably to just mount it over this with the 8 amp fuse in here, in the box, the SCR, the resistors, the Zener, and everything in here. That wouldn't take too much room. I think this is about 1.5 inches here from this heatsink to here. And yes, I bonded the -2. You can see a star washer there. I bonded it to the case, although it's going through the paint. And so that's probably what I will do. And my feeling is, and I have to touch base with Jim on this, this circuit here is, he's got it for 8 amps, which will cover probably maybe a 50 watt, 30 to 50 watt 2 meter rig, if I ever get one, which I doubt I'll ever be able to. But you know, but if, let's say now I wanted to use this power supply for something that'll take 30 amps. Okay, so I would think that you could probably put a 30 amp fuse in there, and it would probably be an auto fuse or something in place of the 8 amp, with all the rest of the circuit being the same, so that in effect I have a 30 amp power supply instead of a 48 or a 60 peak. But that's just an afterthought. And you know, the thing is, I can mount it on the back here, and it would be held in place by the negative stud, which is grounded to the case. In other words, the inner nut can be holding the box in place, and then slip the cover over. I might even have to make the box out of aluminum, but I'm not sure if I'll even do that. This thing could be on cables coming out, and the box could sit on top, or external completely from the power supply, maybe on the wall somewhere. Who knows? So I won't throw this out, because I could probably make something on here, even though it's spinning real fast. I might be able to come up with something, I don't know. Throw it in my junk box, along with everything else. Thanks for watching. Probably upload this tonight, so you'll have something more to be bored about.